Spike Lee had said something when he had done She's Gotta Have It. Because about the time when he came out with She's Gotta Have It, that was probably the longest period of time.
Recent reports suggest that Quentin Tarantino has engaged in a confrontation with filmmaker Spike Lee, who accused him of perpetuating racism in his films and failing to acknowledge the experiences of black individuals.
That basically black culture had really not been reflected in the Hollywood mainstream, unless you're considering Eddie Murphy.
It's been reported that Spike Lee has consistently criticized Quentin Tarantino for the content of his films, and their disagreement escalated beyond words. There was even an instance where Spike allegedly became physically confrontational with Quentin due to heated tensions.
Think about that. Never seeing your own people reflected even in a kiss on screen.
A love scene.
Yeah.
It appears that Quentin is now challenging Spike's accusations and calling them false. However, this ongoing conflict between the two has a history of previous clashes, suggesting there's more to the story than meets the eye.
He was good. I mean, Harvey coming off piano and Reservoir Dogs and Bad Lieutenant and Pulp Fiction.
Legendary filmmakers Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino are celebrated as two of the finest directors in their respective generations. Lee is renowned for exploring themes of race and creating authentic characters, while Tarantino is famous for his deep-rooted love for pop culture references and distinctive dialogue in his films.
Is used a little bit too blithely in those pictures and becomes unmoored from the kind of political context. And I think there's a danger in that. People think we can just say it and it doesn't mean anything.
Furthermore, these two Academy Award-winning directors are not only known for their cinematic prowess, but also for their involvement in controversies, both in their personal lives and professional careers. Spike Lee has been vocal about his views, challenging figures like the late Charlton Heston and esteemed actor-director Clint Eastwood, while also defending divisive individuals like Woody Allen and the late Michael Jackson.
He said, I love Clint, great actor, gave him all types of accolades, but this seat is taken. Very well. I would have responded differently.
On the other hand, Quentin Tarantino has faced scrutiny for his frequent use of the N-word in his films, his association with Harvey Weinstein, and more recently his portrayal of the legendary martial artist and actor Bruce Lee in the 2019 film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
His reasoning was, he might ended up being right, all right, his reasoning was, look, Quentin, this is a movie.
Prior to the onset of the feud between Lee and Tarantino, these filmmakers openly expressed their admiration for each other's work during appearances on The Charlie Rose Show. Lee described Tarantino as fresh, while Tarantino gushed over Lee's 1986 feature-length debut, She's Gotta Have It, and its significance for African-American audiences.
If you look at the film Girl 6, it's really a spoof on himself. And I don't think he was smart enough to see it. I mean, he's even called, his name is QT in the movie.
In a playful gesture, Tarantino even made a tongue-in-cheek cameo in Lee's 1996 film Girl 6 as a smug Hollywood director conducting auditions for his new project. However, a change in their opinions became evident with the release of Tarantino's 1997 crime film Jackie Brown.
Stopped everything and pulled Quentin Tarantino to the side. And there was a big brouhaha right in the middle of the set. And Quentin Tarantino was trying to squash it, let's go in the back. Then he said, nah, that, let's talk right now.
Clash between Lee and Tarantino in the late 90s was an inevitable result of their outspoken personalities. It was sparked when Lee questioned Tarantino's motives for the frequent use of the N-word in Jackie Brown, which appeared 38 times in the film. Lee accused Tarantino of having an obsession with the slur and implied Tarantino was a culture vulture. Spike Lee reportedly said, "The problem with Jackie Brown, I will say it again and again. I have a definite problem with Quentin Tarantino's excessive use of the N-word, and let the record show that I have never said that he cannot use that word. I've used that word in many of my films, but I think something is wrong with him. You look at Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and even that thing with Christian Slater, True Romance. It's just the N-word." Spike pointed out that Quentin claimed to have grown up watching and loving blaxploitation films. Spike emphasized that these movies, however, do not encompass the entirety of the experience for black people in America. He even criticized Quentin, suggesting that he lacked understanding in this regard. He said, "Where did he get that from? Because Sam Jackson kisses his that means black people love him? That's wrong. I am not the only African American in this world who has a problem with this excessive use of the N-word. Tarantino responded by asserting his rights as an artist, defending his choice to tell his stories authentically and create genuine characters, regardless of audience and critic reactions.
I actually like full on address the whole Spike Lee thing there, but I don't want to like turn into a pissing contest and keep talking about it all the time. I'm gonna let that stand.
Tarantino further argued in a Playboy interview, quote, "I am working with the English language. I am not just a film director who shoots movies. I'm an artist, and good, bad, or indifferent, I'm coming from that place. All my choices, the way I live my life, are about that." End quote. Their feud was reignited with the release of Django Unchained, which, much like Tarantino's previous work Jackie Brown, contained racially charged language.
I'm gonna let that stand.
Yeah.
But my problem, my feeling about this whole issue,
yes,
right, and I have a very strong feeling about it, is like...
Keeping the feud alive, the director of Inside Man criticized Quentin Tarantino's film Django Unchained, a slavery-themed revenge thriller, during an interview. Interestingly, it was reported that he hadn't actually seen the film. He told Vibe TV, "I can't speak on it because I'm not gonna see it. All I'm going to say is that it's disrespectful to my ancestors. That's just me. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else." Lee extended his critique of the possible Oscar nominee via Twitter. "American slavery was not a Sergio Leone spaghetti western. It was a Holocaust. My ancestors are slaves, stolen from Africa. I will honor them," Lee tweeted. Although Django Unchained received good reviews from critics, the extensive use of the N-word in the film did spark controversy. The film won 2 American awards and earned numerous nominations and accolades. But its excessive use of racial slurs, its subject matter, and the graphic portrayal of violence against enslaved people led to significant controversies and negative media coverage.
Season, the name on everybody's lips seems to be Django. The controversial gunslinging blockbuster just scooped up 5 Golden Globe nominations.
Civil rights activist Jesse Jackson even weighed in on the film, suggesting that the Jewish community would not have tolerated a similar level of racial slurs in Tarantino's critically acclaimed Revolutionist War film *Inglourious Bastards*. To give you an idea how bad it looks like, here's a younger Jackson talking about unity.
The space, not Star Wars and the war arms escalation. Let's build in the space together.
However, Tarantino promptly responded to the controversy by dismissing Lee's criticism, emphasizing that Lee had not even seen the film. After some time had passed since the release of Django Unchained, Tarantino provided insights into his relationship with Lee. He asserted that he would never collaborate with the filmmaker again, citing offense at the way Lee had expressed his views.
But I think that's a damn shame. I mean, I think people need to look at things like this. I mean, I actually think that would be the beginning of healing if people dealt with it more, you know, because I know it's a problem for both blacks and whites. But
Tarantino expressed that he would have been less displeased if Lee had discussed the matter privately instead of airing it publicly. Furthermore, Tarantino mentioned that he was fully prepared to confront Lee had the situation escalated to that point.
you know, most countries have had to deal with the atrocities that they've done. And America is kind of just, I mean, like in school.
Although it appears that neither party is eager to settle their differences, it's interesting to think about how these two directors' relationships have changed due to the content in Tarantino's films. Despite the series of contentious statements exchanged between them, some argue the feud between Lee and Tarantino seems more like a case of two respected professionals misinterpreting each other's work. Whether that's the case, we aren't to say. But one person wrote, "Their feud, to me, comes more out as a blatant misunderstanding of each other's intent than disrespect or racism. It's sad, really. I think these two minds could actually make great strides together." End quote. Another one wrote, "Actually, I think Tarantino really appreciates Spike Lee because he helped reignite the flames of independent cinema for a new generation of filmmakers. He appeared in Lee's film Girl 6 following a lot of public scrutiny. I think Tarantino really likes to act, but I don't think he would have appeared in that film unless he respected Lee's work, and his immeasurable influence on up-and-coming filmmakers like Kevin Smith and himself. When two outspoken personalities with no intention of yielding clash, tensions are likely to escalate. Given that beloved actor Samuel L. Jackson has collaborated frequently with both filmmakers, Samuel L. Jackson finds himself in the midst of the conflict between Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee, primarily because he has been a consistent presence in the majority of their films. Additionally, he maintains close friendships with both directors.
Quentin writes the stories, and he presents the character to me, and I look at it and say, okay, this is a good challenge. I'll do it.
As we know, their feud reportedly ignited when Quentin released Jackie Brown, a parody of blaxploitation films. In that film, Samuel L. Jackson played a prominent role. In a 2016 interview with Peter Travers discussing The Hateful Eight, Samuel L. Jackson clarified his stance in the ongoing conflict between two of the three major directors he credits for his illustrious career. Specifically, he defended Quentin Tarantino particularly in relation to Spike Lee's primary concerns, which revolve around Tarantino's frequent use of the N-word in his films. Sam began saying, "Quentin's a writer. I get tired of defending Quentin because of that, because I think he has a right to write what he wants. I don't censor him. I've never said to him, you know, you can't say the N-word that many times. There have been times where I've said it more times than he wrote it, and he kind of looks at me and I go, that's the rhythm of the sentence. If you're going to say it there, I gotta say it here. And he'll go, oh, okay, fine." Samuel went on to emphasize the significance of the context in which Quentin Tarantino employs the word within his scripts. He also claimed that he had grown up in a society where people frequently use the N-word due to cultural norms. He also mentioned that when referring to a specific historical period, it made sense to use such language, despite some complaints. He also questioned what other descriptive terms Quentin should use instead. Samuel further remarked that even in recent times, he's observed instances where people use the N-word in certain contexts. He noted situations where, for example, people of Asian origin or Latinx origin might be conversing, indicating that the culture has created specific boundaries regarding when it's considered acceptable to use the word. He said, "You can use it in your music, but I don't know how much you can use it in your cinema, you know? You can say it 80 times in one song, but if Quentin says it 40 times or 102 times in a movie, it's wrong. You can't have it both ways." He continued by arguing that there is often little objection to the way the N-word was used in older films like The Godfather. He argued that its usage in such movies was faithful to the era they depicted, much like Quentin's films. Furthermore, he stated unequivocally that his friend Quentin is, quote, "not a racist. You have to wonder why he writes roles for me that are intelligent. All my characters have always been almost the smartest person in the room." Interviewer Peter Travers inquired whether Samuel L. Jackson had engaged in such a discussion with Spike Lee or attempted to facilitate a resolution between Lee and Quentin Tarantino.
I have no idea. I just think that the fact that I did so much theater and I loved language.
Reportedly, he hadn't had such a conversation with Spike Lee. According to him, there was a point when he attempted to persuade Spike to attend the premiere of The Hateful Eight. People suggest that Spike had conditioned his attendance on Quentin also going to the premiere of Chirac. However, Samuel was unable to coordinate the dates for these premieres, so the exchange did not materialize. He also expressed uncertainty about whether this matter held significant importance for either of them.
In my mind, I'd seen him as Lee Van Cleef for a very long time. Yeah. So when he finally got to the Lee Van Cleef thing, I was like, okay, now we're finally on the same page.
Ultimately, Samuel L. Jackson remarked that Spike Lee had consistently lived life on his own terms and that he himself doesn't have the ability to alter Spike's perspective on things. And the same with Quentin Tarantino. He said, "I think Quentin respects Spike as a filmmaker. I don't know if Spike has the same feelings about Quentin, because I don't have that conversation. But Spike's my friend, Quentin's my friend." The rift did not stop here. People suggest that both the directors have fair share of feuds over the course of their career, and both confront each other. Another significant rift emerged when Lee publicly criticized Tarantino for what he deemed as problematic artistic choices, leading to a highly publicized dispute between these two prominent filmmakers.
If they're coming from the place, by asking that question, that where I'm a racist, if they feel in their heart of hearts that I'm coming from a racist place.
As per Lee, Tarantino had produced numerous films that, in his view, relied heavily on the appropriation of black culture, which he believed justified his criticism. Upon hearing these comments, Tarantino declared that he would refuse to collaborate with Spike Lee in the future, even if Lee were to request it. Their feud seemed poised to escalate further when they crossed paths, and Tarantino contemplated the possibility of a physical altercation with Lee due to his intense anger. "Spike and I bumped into each other once after all that crap was over, and I was all set to kick his ass. Tarantino claimed, "He attacked me to keep his Jesse Jackson of cinema status," end quote. Criticizing Lee's comments, Tarantino claimed that Lee doesn't have the right to make artistic decisions about other people's work. "I wasn't seeking his approval, so he was engaging with me to maintain his status." He further criticized the superficiality of celebrity conflicts while emphasizing that artistic freedom should remain the foremost concern when addressing sensitive socio-cultural topics.
I am God as a writer,
Right.
and all these characters are mine and they're me, and I'm telling the truth.
In this response, some people actually supported Quentin for his reply. One person wrote, "Keep doing what you do, Quentin. Actual people talk like this. Call it what you want, but it's realism, not racism. I love every single one of his movies, but Django is my favorite easily. The best story, best characters, simply his best movie. Hope his 10th movie will be my new favorite, whatever that may be," end quote. While many share the opinion of Spike Lee, he faced criticism from Samuel L. Jackson and also from Jamie Foxx, who was part of the cast of Django Unchained. Foxx referred to Lee's critique of the film as irresponsible. Fox expressed his perspective to The Guardian. He didn't like Whoopi Goldberg. He doesn't like Tyler Perry. He doesn't like anybody. I think he's sort of run his course. I mean, I respect Spike. He's a fantastic director, but he gets a little shady when he's taking shots at his colleagues without looking at the work. To me, that's irresponsible. He further explained that one cannot argue that Eminem's success is solely because he is white or deny Elvis Presley's talent, and Quentin Tarantino should have the artistic freedom to pursue his creative vision. Fox also stated that the purpose of Django Unchained is to elicit strong emotions from the audience.
He was at this, do not my film up.
Tyrant in the sense that does he insist on every word being just the way he wrote it?
But that's what you want.
Tarantino and Lee are both highly skilled filmmakers, each excelling in their respective genres, and both have garnered criticism in the press in the past, with Lee even earning the title of the angriest auteur in a New York Magazine article, and criticism on Tarantino could be a whole video of its own. Nevertheless, Spike Lee's success as one of the most accomplished filmmakers is well deserved, as his films are lauded for effectively conveying the aspirations, anxieties, and frustrations embedded in African American culture.
I don't think he's educated about enslavement of my ancestors.
On the other hand, Quentin Tarantino specializes in producing films that are unabashedly profane yet immensely entertaining. His movies often leave you feeling like you need a cleansing afterward, but their undeniable guilty pleasure value is a testament to his storytelling prowess.
A large chunk of the 80s. I mean, I'm even surprised that blacks went to the movies at all. I can't believe that they, would go and not see themselves represented on the screen.
These two filmmakers appear to share little in common except their connection to the controversial N-word and the conflicts that have arisen over it. Some people online have used the interesting defense that Spike Lee himself has acknowledged using the term. As many would argue, though, the difference is that Lee is a black man and has a certain right to use it that white people do not. When fans came to know about Spike's statement, they also shared their views. One person wrote, "Seeing a lot of commenters saying how awful the enslaved people were treated in Django Unchained," and then goes on to question why a director isn't allowed to depict these types of characters. However, people suggest that if we look back at Quentin's career, he has always been a hothead.
What are you doing? Hey, don't do that. Don't do that again. Whoa, what? Hit me.
Quentin Tarantino, known for his unwavering stance on subjects he's passionate about, has engaged in numerous conflicts within Hollywood. Whether it involves fellow directors, actors, websites, or even paparazzi, Tarantino is always ready to confront a disagreement head-on. He had a once famous feud with Denzel Washington. One is a charismatic black actor known for his roles where he takes on formidable opponents. The other is a white writer-director celebrated for his storytelling prowess in the film industry. However, in 1995, during the filming of Crimson Tide, these two heavyweights in Hollywood engaged in a heated verbal exchange that would ignite a 7-year-long feud between them.
He said, "I'm not going to tell you what to do." He said, "I'm not going to tell you that, Denzel." He says, "But I can tell you this. The first 2 or 3 or 4 films you do in this business will dictate how you're perceived."
However, throughout Quentin and Spike's public disagreement, numerous prominent figures in the entertainment industry defended both directors on multiple occasions. As a result, it appeared unlikely that either man would be willing to concede to the other's argument.
The way I wrote it is that Jesus' children were supposed to be his father, Jake, 12-zip. Now, Ray is this is his first film.
In spite of the numerous controversies surrounding these filmmakers, Both Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino have cultivated illustrious careers spanning decades. They have entertained audiences and left a lasting impact on multiple generations of filmmakers. As He Got Game celebrates its 25th anniversary and rumors swirl about Tarantino's 10th and final film entering production, it appears that this feud has had little impact on the trajectory of either artist's career. Nonetheless, many people suggest that Lee and Tarantino not being on the best of terms is not good for the industry. Both directors bring a unique and distinctive approach to writing, directing, and storytelling, and the prospect of a collaboration between them would be exciting, though others seem to find their feud understandable.